Hey everyone, so we're in the Tesla Model Y with the new V11 update for the full self-drive. So a few changes. You'll see that the blue tentacle or path planner is a little bit wider, and that takes up the full width of the vehicle, where before it was probably like maybe an eighth or something like that of the vehicle's width. And you'll see as we come up to some lights here, we've got that indicator light there. It's now highlighted in blue, just like if the car was looking at a vehicle of oncoming traffic, a vehicle of interest, it would highlight that in blue as well. And then as we come to a slowdown, you'll see the path planner now also has kind of some chevrons, letting you know that the vehicle is coming to a slow position or to a full stop. And we'll demonstrate that here, of course, when we get to the next light. All right, see here, we're slowing down. There we go. And so far from V11, I don't know, it's definitely a few steps back in many cases, and in some cases where the car would take a left-hand turn at a set of lights without issues. In previous versions, it's now having hesitation, where I'm either having to do a full takeover or just applying some accelerator pedal movement and whatnot. So we'll see how this goes. I'm also having issues with on-ramp and off-ramp activity. As you can see, for some reason we're slowing down almost to a complete stop for a vehicle that we should have just moved over a little bit. And I had to press the accelerator to go because there was a car behind us. But yeah, so I'm seeing issues with highway activity, which is what V11 is supposed to be all about, because it's the single stack, one stack to rule them all. But what I'm seeing is that on some on-ramps, almost all on-ramps so far actually, that the car doesn't move over into the freeway itself. It still just stays and tries to ride to the end. And then getting off the highway, most cases it doesn't have an issue, but it does kind of take it too wide and overshoot the width of the lane there a bit. But yeah, so I'll speed up here and I'll slow down once we come to an intersection that the vehicle's had issues with for all previous versions of FSD.
I know 'cause I tried acid. Now I see through your habits, just like gadgets. You tell me with the.
Okay, so one thing I've noticed as well with V11, it does turn on the indicator a lot sooner in the change maneuver. But this intersection as a whole is usually pretty good with. You'll see we're getting that line at which the car believes it's going to pull out to, and it's clear to go, so it's going. But this intersection, it's a three-way stop. My traffic has the right of way, but typically what's been happening is it just doesn't understand that exactly, and I have to take a break. We had the right of way as this is a three-way stop, and the car was trying to stop for oncoming traffic. So with V11 as well, no more camera, but we do have the ability to provide voice feedback that Tesla is allegedly taking into consideration with those disengagements. Okay, so we'll see here, and this lane, or this on-ramp is going well. It actually is moving over and into the freeway, where any other on-ramp that I've tried so far has not been the same. Overall, highway is good. I'd say slightly better than navigate on autopilot. What I found is that the decision to change a lane or not is a lot smoother, and the speed at which the lane change occurs is a lot faster. Typically in other versions of FSD, or I guess navigate on autopilot, because FSD wasn't part of the highway yet, that it would sit there for a good 4 blinks or so of the indicator before it actually made that maneuver. So in these cases, I find that it's making that maneuver a lot faster. but we're still seeing kind of that delay in making that decision to change the lane. As you saw, we're set to 115 kilometers per hour. The car got down to 112, at which it still wasn't making the decision to move lanes. It was after that Hyundai in front of us changed lanes that it decided to do so as well. A change that Tesla has made in the FSD 11 is that there's no more ability to select car lengths. You just have the autopilot setting of chill, average, or assertive. I find that if you're in assertive, it just sits in this lane, which to me isn't really the most optimal kind of planning. I would like it to make those decisions to change lanes a lot more frequently, but then not stay in this lane. So as typically these kind of drives on the highway are relatively boring, we'll go ahead and take a look at the autopilot settings. Okay, so we've got the various levels of autopilot that you can have. So we've got traffic-aware cruise control, we've got the auto steer, or we've got the full self-driving beta. And then again, you can select between the 3 different modes in which FSD operates. And lane change notifications, personally, I have them on off. I can hear the indicator starting to go. I can see it on the screen. And then the path planner will also visually show that it's wanting to change lanes. You can set it to do minimal lane changes. That's only for that current drive. After that, it will reset. But we can also make that change within the autopilot settings when we change the steering wheel controls there. And set speed is either current speed or speed limit when you go to engage autopilot. I have it set on speed limit, but set speed would be, if you're going 120 kilometers an hour and it's a speed limit of 100, and then you set autopilot, if you're in the current speed, it will take that 120 kilometers an hour and set that as the autopilot speed. Offset, we can either do fixed or percentage. I have percentage of 15%. And then we've got additional kind of normal stuff. We've got summon. Oh, and I was just yelled at for looking at the screen too long. So yeah, if you don't know, there's a camera in there that's watching you as you drive to ensure you're watching the road. Then summon, same stuff. We've got there, automatic blind spot camera and blind spot collision warning. And all this is pretty much the same here. Yeah, that's all the same. Cool. So I'm just gonna go speed up here. If there's anything interesting, I'll slow down, but hopefully it's a smooth ride for the next 15-20 minutes. So I had to disengage the turn signal there because it was trying to get us in this middle lane, which would then get us behind this truck. Usually when that happens, I'll just tell it no. I'll crank the speed a little bit to pass if needed. But we're still moving fairly quickly in terms of comparison to the middle lane. And so I think we're okay at the speed we're going here.
You tell me with the 2 hands, I'm too bad. Wonder what you think's like.
See, it's trying to turn into this left lane, but it's just congested there. we've got to get off the highway in 4 kilometers, so it may not be worth it. It should stop. It typically tries to move over. I'm gonna stop it myself because it doesn't make sense to do this. And that's one thing, amongst obviously a few others with Tesla's FSD, is that often there seems like there's no thought into making a lane change. So let's try it again and again and again. Like, it just doesn't make sense to try it. And people are probably going to get pissed behind me. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be thought into some maneuvers it makes. And then others, you're like, wow, that was really human-like. But too many are like, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Things like if you're on a 2-lane road and there's a city bus and there's bus stops along the way. As a human, you typically know that after a set of lights, there's going to be the bus stop, or before possibly, and it doesn't make any sense to go into that lane with the bus because it's going to stop and sit there for 30 seconds. But the car often is like, hey, I see lane that's open and has room, so I'm going to go and do that. And then you're often kind of just fighting with it to say, no, that's not the best maneuver to make at this time.
That's what you said. I guess I'm just too fake for that. So sit down, listen, think for a minute. Know it might be hard 'cause you're uneducated. Break down, face it, breathe for a minute. I'm about to help you with your manners and respect. Second chance, so take it till we feel the man.
Okay, so we should start to get over here. On previous versions with Navigate on autopilot, it would have tried to have gotten into the right-hand lane, like way back. And one thing with Navigate on autopilot, it struggled with traffic that is merging. I found that either, if the traffic that was merging into the highway was at the same speed you were, it did a really good job at allowing that traffic in. If it was going considerably slower for whatever reason, it would just slam on the brakes, which was pretty intense. And obviously not the right thing to do. So we'll see what this version decides to do. Typically myself, I like to get into the right-hand lane of an exit just after the last on-ramp. That's before the exit that I need to take, just so I don't have to deal with the traffic. So we're gonna merge into a right-hand here, and we've got this guy coming in. And it did okay. A bit of a hard brake, but he also was just kind of flying in there, but okay, so we're just about to take the exit here. And we'll see if it does what I had experienced before, where it takes that exit too wide and crosses the white line. And it wasn't indicating before either, which it isn't now either, so no indication, but it didn't overshoot, which was good. So up here at the light, we're going to take a right. There are 2 lanes that we could use. At the end of the destination, our stop is on the right-hand side. So best would be to take the far right lane in this intersection. But we'll see what it decides to do depending on the traffic there. Okay, indicating early, which is great. But no, like, it needs to make a decision to get over earlier when that lane is forming, right? Because people behind us would have just started to come into this lane because the natural kind of process for humans, at least for myself, is that you follow that line, and when that line opens for that new lane, you're naturally just following that new lane from the beginning. You're not waiting until the lane has developed, a car width amount of space and then going into that new lane. Like I would have, for this one here, I would have taken it right there if I was to go into that lane there. In this drive, we're not, we're just going straight, but just kind of give an example there. So there's a few set of lights here coming up, and typically with a semi truck on this road, you'd want to get over because the number of lights are high, and then just going to create a lot of delay in us getting to our final destination if we don't maneuver around the vehicle. But I want to see what FSD 11.3.3 decides to do, and yeah. Okay, see, I start to move over, which it's asking and it's doing, which is great. Okay, we had 21 seconds to make this intersection, should be fine. See, in this case, like, it needs to decide to go around. Like, it should have known that truck was getting into the lane to make a left, and that there was nobody around us. It could have made a quick lane change to get around it, so we would have made that light. As a human driver, that's what I would have done. So those are those decisions that FSD seems to not make, those more intelligent decisions along the route. That would save you time, save frustration for yourself, and of course, save frustration for drivers behind you there. So off from that light, nice and smooth, no hesitation really. And then of course we've got the electric acceleration, so we are off much faster than vehicles behind. So it's still doing that, like when it's a sharp turn, it's turning on its indicator even though it's not asking to make a lane change or notifying to make a lane change. It's like it almost thinks that the only option is to go through the turning lane so that it does that indicator. But then it realizes that, no, I don't have to do that, so that it just turns it off. All right, awesome. So that was the drive. Rather uneventful. A few disengagements there, and a few interventions that I had to make to increase, speed or whatnot. But it's definitely coming a long way. I find that FSD 11, as mentioned, is kind of a bit of a step back in some cases. But overall, we're moving in the right direction here. Okay, until the next video. See you guys later.